Well, hello everyone, and today I've got something that's similar, but also a little bit different, and that is a TBR video. It's about my reading plans for the rest of 2025, before everything resets and we have a whole new schedule of what I want to read coming up in 2026. I'm getting a little tired of doing some of the typical TBR wrap-up, so I might be switching things up here, but I at least wanted to give a bit of an update about what's on the radar for the last little bit of this year. And I've got this, as always with my TBRs, I have it separated into 3 categories, but it's a little bit different from normal. I have this split up into series that I have been reading that I want to finish, or at least get caught up to in one case. Series that I want to start still in 2025, and then lastly, just some one-off books, some individual books. They might be part of a series, maybe not, but I want to get to. I want to make a priority, and I have got, let's see here, looks like 4 in each category. So we're going to be going over at least 12 books here that I want to read before the end of this year. And the first book that we're going to be talking about, well, this is actually going to be the first series that I want to finish for sure in 2025, is going to be the Aspect Emperor subseries to the greater Second Apocalypse series by R. Scott Bakker. As of the time of recording this video, I only have the final book, The Unholy Consult, left to read. My history with this series has been a little bit interesting. I at first put The Darkness That Comes Before as a priority read in 2025, and then I read it late 2024. It was the last book that I read last year. So then read Warrior Prophet, Thousandfold Thought, and Judging Eye early this year, and then took about a 5-month break. And then just this last month, and we'll go over all of this in my wrap-up, but just this last month, read White Luck Warrior and The Great Ordeal, basically back-to-back. And then as a third, to have back-to-back-to-back, I'll be jumping into The Unholy Consult probably as soon as I stop hitting record on this video here. R. Scott Bakker is one of the most interesting authors who is playing within the tradition of sci-fi and fantasy. People will talk about Dan Simmons doing that, Joe Abercrombie doing that, Christopher Ruocchio doing that. Bakker does this in maybe some of my favorite ways. There is a lot of Dune in these books. Honestly, there's way more Dune in Second Apocalypse than there is in The Sun Eater. There's a lot of Stephen R. Donaldson with the Thomas Covenant books. There's a lot of Lord of the Rings and a lot of riffs on Tolkien in this. And then obviously a lot from history itself as well. A lot of the Bible and apocalyptic images that are painted in moments of prophecy in the Bible that are made very literal and concrete in this series. And there are parts of it that are harrowing and engaging and exciting, and there are parts that are horrific and terrifying. And overall, it makes for a very tricky series to talk about, but then also to fully wrap around my head as to what I think about it. Because Bakker's final conclusion, in terms of his philosophy that he's painting here, is pretty dark. I know people have argued about whether or not it's nihilistic or not. Bakker has self-described himself as a nihilist, at least at some points, so I don't think it's a far stretch to say that his books are right on that line. And so, in that sense, I'm not a nihilist, but at the same time, so much of what he is doing is so skillfully done. So many of the characters are so entertaining to follow. So much of his world building and skill as a writer is on display. So much of it's on display that I can't but applaud and say, wow, what a good job he's done with this series, even if maybe we're not on the same page. So overall, I'm looking forward to getting to the ending of this series. The Unholy Consult is the one that everybody says buckle up for. It's where Bakker really gets unhinged, apparently. So I'm not sure if I'm ready for it or not, but ready or not, here we come. The next series that I would like to for sure get caught up on before the end of the year is going to be the Sun Eater series by Christopher Ruocchio. This is obviously Disquiet Gods. You can tell it's the Bane copy because it's shining off of my ring light here. And Shadows Upon Time comes out later this month. Currently, my plan is to go to the release gala. I hope to meet many of you there. If anybody else is planning on attending it, I'd love to meet and interact with you, and then also other booktubers who are going to be there. The Sun Eater series, if you watched my top sci-fi books video, you know that it's a favorite series of mine. The journey of Hadrian Marlowe is one that has meant a lot to me. A lot of the things that Ruocchio is doing in the series I'm really excited for, and the last 2 books are sort of like pure Ruocchio, from what I've heard. Certainly Disquiet Gods is, and then a lot of people have said that Shadows Upon Time is as well, where Christopher Ruocchio in some of the early books, there's riffs on Dune, there's riffs on Gene Wolfe, there's riffs on, Star Wars, there's riffs on Lovecraft, and he sort of comes into his own in Disquiet Gods. It is just solely its own thing. There's no more riffs, we're not playing on things, we're not playing off of things, it's just Christopher at his best. And I'm excited to see how everything wraps up in Shadows Upon Time. Reviewers that I align with in terms of taste and preference and what we look for in books have been universally positive on this last book. So I am very, very excited to get to this and see how this journey with Hadrian Marlowe, how it wraps up. Next series that I'm absolutely going to get, well, not finished, this is the one that I'm just going to get caught up to because the series is incomplete, is going to be the Cameron Winter Mystery Series by Andrew Klavan. Now, I haven't talked about him a ton on this channel, a bit, but not a ton, mainly because I read Andrew Klavan a lot before I started a BookTube channel. Andrew Klavan is one of few authors that I've read virtually everything he's ever written. I haven't read all of the stuff that he wrote under a pen name when he was a young guy, but this Cameron Winter series is a mystery series. And Klavan is known for writing mysteries, thrillers, and crime novels. And then he's also written some fantasy and some horror as well, but mainly mysteries, thrillers, crime. This is mystery, and this is some of the best stuff he's ever written. The Cameron Winter books are phenomenal. They're some of Klavan's best. It's about a gentleman named Cameron Winter, who, when he was a young man, was an assassin for the United States government. And now, as an older person, he is an English professor, specifically teaching the English Romantic poets. But he also, because of the skills that he learned as an assassin, ways to evaluate situations, ways to figure out what is going on at the core of many of these crimes or conflicts, he's able to solve crimes in ways outside of the law that maybe cops or normal detectives can't. He calls it his strange habit of mind that he has. And so we sort of have a very... What's so good about the Cameron Winter books is that they are very character-driven. Cameron Winter, the detective, or the English professor turned detective, really drives the whole series forward. And throughout the books, we have conversations that he has with his therapist as he tells stories of missions he was on or traumatic things that happened to him when he was younger. And so we really get into the head of this modern academic man and the different things that he's wrestling with, and many of the 21st century issues that he's encountering, where people are getting more violent, people are getting more afraid, and Cameron Winter's trying to come up with answers for all of that. So this is the book that just released here in late October. Check that. This is After That, The Dark. This is the 5th book in the series. Mysterious Press was gracious enough to send me an ARC of this, so I definitely want to get it read. And then probably do a video about the Cameron Winter books, because I just read this last month. Once again, it'll be in my wrap-up, A Woman Underground, which was the 4th book in the series, and this is some of the best work that Klavan has done. And then this one is last, mainly because it's the lowest priority, but, we'll see. This is the Vickery and Castine books from Tim Powers. This is the 1st book in the series, the trilogy, Alternate Routes, and then Forced Perspectives and Stolen Skies, I believe, are books 2 and 3. This is Tim Powers writing urban fantasy. Tim Powers is known for writing his secret history novels, and he's doing a similar thing here, but with urban fantasy tying in, things from Greek myth, tying in certain fantastical elements, ghosts, maybe even some occultic things that are going on in the background. And I really liked Alternate Routes. It is generally considered to be kind of B-tier Tim Powers, not his best work, but I liked it a lot, and I'm looking forward to getting to the rest of the series here. Hopefully, by the end of the year. These books are pretty short, although with Tim Powers, don't let that fool you. For as short as Tim Powers' books may be in terms of their page count, they are often very dense and take a lot of work to parse through what's going on, and will take longer than you would expect just from the page count. Now we're going to be talking about 4 series that I would like to start before the end of the year, or at least are on my radar. And we've got two that may be dueling for a spot at the table. So if I do one, I might not do the other. So we'll kind of see. Both of these were on my list of top series to start in 2025, and I haven't started either of them yet. So it's between the Lightbringer books by Brent Weeks and the Sarantine Mosaic by Guy Gavriel Kay. So Lightbringer is obviously Brent Weeks' epic fantasy 5-book series. I don't know a whole lot about the plot other than I know Night Angel is often somewhat grimdark coded. I think this is more Flintlock fantasy coded. And Lightbringer has got to be just about the most controversial modern fantasy series. I remember when it was coming out, and it was before Mike obviously jumped off the Brent Weeks train, and Daniel Green was saying it's some of the best modern fantasy ever written. And then once the finale came out, a lot of people were split. I know a lot of people in my circles of Fantasy Booktube just hate the ending, say it's awful, but I've heard a lot of people, especially outside of more of this echo chamber, who are like, oh, it's brilliant, it makes sense, it's so perfect. So I don't know where I'm going to land with the Lightbringer books. I do know that I loved the Night Angel books that I read from Brent Weeks. Not that they're perfect, but I thought there was a lot of interesting things that Weeks was doing, especially within the context of the fantasy genre. And it's sort of like Fantasy Batman, right? So what's not to love there? So I want to read Lightbringer. I've got a lot of the hardcovers, so I need to start them to figure out if I want to keep them or if the series just isn't as good as the Night Angel ones and pass it on. And then also, yes, Sarantine Mosaic, Guy Gavriel Kay. I've yet to read Guy Gavriel Kay despite planning to start him at numerous times this year. The Sarantine Mosaic is often lauded as his best work, and so I figured, hey, why not start there? And the advantage that Sarantine has over Lightbringer is that it's just a duology, so it's just 2 books to get through. So anyway, those are the 2 that are kind of the top priority here of I'm looking to start them, and if I do one, I might not do the other. And then here are 2 series that are sort of on the border of the TBR as to whether or not I start them or not. One is going to be the King Raven trilogy by Stephen Lawhead. So I just did a video recently about the Pendragon Cycle by Stephen Lawhead. I love that series, but I want to read more from Lawhead, and the King Raven trilogy is sort of his take on Robin Hood. And a lot of Lawhead fans say that this is some of his best stuff. So I've had these books for a while, so I'm looking to get to them, and I've been listening to some stuff on Robin Hood and the symbolism behind him, and maybe some of the historical things that came together to give us the myth of Robin Hood that we have today. And that kind of I was like, oh man, I'd be interested to read those Lawhead books about him, because I never got around to those. And then the last series is sort of a cheat here, but I'm going to put the Witcher series. So once again, before I started BookTube, I read both of the short story collections from Sapkowski and wasn't terribly impressed by them. And I know the Witcher series is pretty easy to hate. I don't know many diehard Witcher fans on the sci-fi fantasy corner of BookTube. There's some. Don't get me wrong, there are some who really love this series, but there's not many. I hear way more people who go, it wasn't what I was looking for. Oh, I played the games, I watched the show, I had different expectations. So I've had some things recontextualized, and I want to try giving these books another go. So I think I'll probably start, reread the short story collections, and then if I like them, get onto the main Witcher novels. So anyway, that one's sort of a cheat because I technically read the short story collections already, but hey, it's my list, so I get to cheat. Now we're going to be talking about 4 one-off books that I'm looking to start, hopefully sometime soon. The first one is going to be Something More Than Night by Ian Tregillis. So earlier this year, I read the Alchemy Wars series by Ian Tregillis and really liked it. Something More Than Night, I've been told, is like Raymond Chandler meets Paradise Lost. So I know there's some supernatural things going on. I know it's like a murder mystery with sort of a noir detective, and I love noir detectives, and I love supernatural stuff going on in my books. So this is a standalone that Tregillis wrote. My understanding is that Tregillis has only published 7 books: the Milkweed Triptych, the Alchemy Wars, and then Something More Than Night. So I plan on reading this, giving it a shot, and I will report back and let you guys know what I think. This was on my TBR for this last month, and I didn't get to it, so it's on the TBR for hopefully by the end of the year. This is Cantos of Arcadia by Nicholas Kotar. Nicholas Kotar is a Orthodox deacon, and this is a sci-fi novel that supposedly combines elements from Ursula Le Guin, C.S. Lewis, and Canticle for Leibowitz, which sounds right up my alley. It's pretty short, as you can see. I don't expect this to take a long time to read or anything, but last year I started Kotar's Raven Sun series, read book 1, and put it down. And I want to go back to it because I don't think I read it right. You know, the Reddit thing of like, you didn't read the book right, but I don't think I did. I think Kotar is doing some different things that I wasn't expecting in that series. And I've been listening to Nicholas Kotar's podcast for years at this point, and supported the Kickstarter for Cantos of Arcadia, which is how I have that copy. So I want to give Raven Sun another shot, but probably before then, Cantos of Arcadia is going to be a priority. Speaking of priorities, we've been doing historical fiction. You know, we've got Robin Hood already on this list. That's not fantasy. It's more historical fiction than anything. So here's another historical fiction novel that will probably be in December, and that is Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. This is about Thomas Cromwell, who was, I think, an advisor for King Henry VIII. I don't know much about the life of Thomas Cromwell, but I know Wolf Hall is one of those books that almost seems to be universally praised. So I'm excited to get to it, see what it's like. I think I'll be doing a buddy read for this one, which should be exciting. You know, I've been meaning to read more historical fiction, and this obviously is considered to be one of those modern classics. And then the last one-off book that will be on this TBR is going to be Phased by Tori Tekken. So I read The Bloodstones by Tori, and I think that was like the second book that I read this year. It was very early, back in January. And then I read Cold Silver for Souls, and that one I thought is like one of the best self-published novels I've ever read. Was just blown away by that book. And so yeah, Phased is Tori's other book that, at least of her more recent fantasy novels that she's published. So I'm excited to read it, and I know that this one isn't as widely read in at least the booktube fantasy space as like Bloodstones, because it's a werewolf novel. It's more of an urban fantasy novel, but Tori did some really interesting things that I didn't expect, especially in Cold Silver. So there's a certain level of trust in her skill as an author to make a concept that maybe on the surface doesn't sound like, oh, that sounds like my thing, to still make it interesting enough to be worth my time. So I'm definitely going to give Phased a shot before the end of the year. So that is why it's on the TBR. Anyway, guys, yeah, this is my plans for the rest of the reading year. Obviously, there's some room for spontaneity here, but this is sort of what I'm looking ahead at. So let me know if you have any series that you're absolutely want to finish before the end of the year. Thank you all so much for watching this. Let me know what you think down below. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.